Hey, I'm Abe, and today we're going to be talking about how to take the budgets that we created in the last few videos and how to stick with them. Now, originally I talked about how there are some rigid forms of budgeting where you set aside, $200 for necessary expenses, $100 for personal expenses, and then that's it for your time period. And while that makes sense for some people, it doesn't make sense for all people. That's one way that if you're not able to keep track of all of these things in your head, or if the monthly, just looking back and seeing how you did and using that to plan forward on a fluid basis is going to work for you, then something more rigid like that makes more sense. And that 50, 30, 20% strategy that NerdWallet was suggesting may be something that's worth exploring. Going into, once you've got your budget and you've decided that you're going to spend whatever it is, or that you have a certain amount of money to spend in a given period of time, how do you hold yourself to that? I've got a bunch of tools that you can use to help make it easier for yourself to stick to the plan that you've laid out for yourself. First off, cash is a great option because cash is a limited quantity item. If you have it in your hand, you can spend it. If you don't have it in your hand, you can't spend it. Whereas with a credit card or a debit card, you don't always know exactly how much you've spent that month unless you're checking it every morning. You don't know how much is left off the top of your head for the most part. So it's difficult to control yourself with that unknown lingering. Whereas cash, so if you do something like on a weekly basis, you give yourself an allowance. And there are a couple ways to go about this. But let's say you give yourself an allowance and you say, I need to, with this money, buy groceries. I need to eat lunch while I'm at work and, have Starbucks or go see a movie or something. And so here's $100 or $80 to get me through the week. And if you have that money in your wallet, and as you go through the week and you go to Starbucks, and as you're getting to the point where it's Thursday, maybe it's Wednesday, and you only have $10 left, now you're starting to see where your money went and that you need to be more careful in how you use it for the next 2 days. So cash is a good option. And along those lines, if you want to deviate a little bit from that, so instead of everything coming out as cash, if you do all of your necessities shopping with whatever credit or debit card you have for ease of use, but the only thing that you have that's discretionary, the choices that you can make for, Starbucks coffee or going out with friends, that is only cash. So the cash that you have is the cash that you're going to have, and once it's gone, it's gone. So that at least that way, all of your necessities are being paid for, your bills, everything like that is done. But you can still control the things that are not super important. And yeah, it's important to have fun and enjoy life. Of course it is. But if you have a limited amount, if you have $20 for the week, then you can, what you have and you know when it's done and it's over. And then you know that the next week you'll have more and you can make different decisions then. So cash is a good option, and that's the first one. The second option is to share the responsibility of sticking to that budget with the rest of the household. So it's not just you. If you are responsible for your family's finances, obviously you're not the only person spending money. Setting up your spouse, especially with your kids, and having them be a part of the discussion and a part of the budget that you've set, and have them understand why the budget is in place, where each of the pools are that the money is going, that then they can all, and you can all work together to execute on that budget. And with peer pressure, and there's a concept in organizational behavior called social proof, that other people seeing and being aware of the commitments that you're making makes you more likely to live up to those commitments. The budget can be treated in a similar way, that each week you put something on a dry erase board on the fridge, for example. Everybody's able to see it. Everybody maybe signs their initials that this is what they're all committing to, and you can move forward from there. So sharing the responsibility is the second tool. And you can check in each week, both with the cash and with the responsibility. You just sort of have a weekly check-in, see how people are doing, see whether adjustments need to be made, and build from there. Item 3, keep your receipts and go through them each week. And this is regardless of whether you're managing your budget online like we talked about, or whether you're keeping your receipts already, because this is how you're keeping track of what you're spending your money on. But if you keep your receipts, you can sit down with them at the end of each week instead of waiting until the end of the month. You can check them at the end of each week, see what you spent your money on, and decide whether that makes sense going into the next week, or whether maybe next week you need to spend less because this week you had an unexpected expense that you're finding in your receipts here and that you need to account for. Number 4 is figure out and regulate when you incur expenses. So you could set a regular date every week that you go to get groceries. So you know every Thursday, that's grocery day, and you need $100 on that day to go and buy food. You could get gas on the same day every week or every other week. You could just figure out what your cadence needs to be, back it off by a few days to give yourself a buffer, and then just every Monday you're getting gas. So you know that your gas bill is going to be $30 every Monday, that your food bill on Thursday is going to be $100 every Thursday. So as you're looking forward and you're planning out your expenses for the week, you'll know when and how these expenses will show up. And that predictability will give you the confidence and the comfort to know that you're not going to forget about something. You're not going to find yourself short for one of these essential expenses that you know are going to be coming regardless of whether you're ready for them or not. So number 5, we mentioned it just a second ago, but create a buffer to account for unexpected expenses. And that's on all of your bills, food, power. Like, I don't know exactly how much my PG&E bill is going to be each month, but I have a general idea. And the same thing with the water bill and the garbage and all these other things that come up. So if you figure out what your average is, and maybe you'll need to do your finances and your budget for a few months to get an idea of where that baseline is, and then add 10 or 15% on top of that for each month's budget. Figure that if you're average or you're expecting you're going to spend $100 on PG&E each month, budget $110. So if you have a particularly cold month and you need to use the heater more, if you overrun on your $100 a little bit, it's fine. But the added benefit of having these buffers on all of your essential expenses means that at the end of the month, they'll even each other out. Maybe you'll use less water, but you'll heat your house more. Or maybe you'll use more water and it'll be cool, or it'll be hot out, so you don't need to heat your house at all and you're just outside playing in the hose, right? So if you think about adding a buffer to each of your essential expenses, at the end of each month, you should likely have leftover money that you can then use either for the following month, or that you can then say, okay, anything that's left over goes into savings. Anything that's left over is an additional amount that I'm going to pay down on my high interest loans, or any of these items that we talked about last week on ways to build wealth. Number 6, get rid of your credit and debit cards if you can't keep track of how much you're putting on them, or you can't control yourself and you're sort of viewing it as free money, even though you know it's not free money. I know it's not free money, but when you're standing at the register, it's hard not to say, yes, I want those shoes, or, yes, that jacket looks really great. So if you get rid of those cards, you just remove, or at the very least get them out of your wallet or your daily carry around so that you have them, but you don't have them with you to use in those scenarios. Number 7, don't compare yourself with anybody else. There's no keeping up with the Joneses. There's none of that. Because what you don't know is how they're managing their money. I think that there is a large group of people who run their lives very much out of debt, but they look like they're just doing incredibly well. They're driving a fancy car, they're always wearing nice new clothes, they're living in an expensive apartment building or whatever, that they look like they've got all their ducks in a row. But what they're really doing is they're up to their neck in debt and they're just sort of spending money they don't have. Don't be one of those people, and definitely don't be comparing yourself to one of those people, because you won't know. You don't know whether they have a lot of money and they're just living below their means, or whether they have no money and they're living above their means. Trying to compare yourself and trying to meet a standard that isn't appropriate to you is just going to set you up for wanting to spend money you don't have and getting yourself into debt that you can't afford. Number 8, set up auto-withdrawals or transfers for the debt payments, for your bills, for your savings, for all of the things that you have budgeted each month. Set it up so that it auto transfers. And if you can, set it up so that it auto transfers right after your paycheck comes in. So when you look at your bank account, you don't see a bunch of money and think, hey, I've got $200. I can get that jacket, or I can get those shoes because I can afford it, forgetting that you had, earmarked $100 of that for savings and another $50 for paying down your credit card debt. If you have them taken out automatically, you don't need to worry about it. It's already taken care of. and B, it's not money that you will think is yours. Number 9, remember dates and holidays that are coming. We're talking birthdays, we're talking Memorial Day, which is coming up this weekend, I think. We're talking Christmas, we're talking whatever religious and or social holidays and events that you want to think of that you're going to need to have an extra amount of money for. So don't let yourself be surprised and let those surprises throw you off of your budget. If you see a birthday coming that you would like to spend money on, either for your children or your spouse or friends or whomever, or you want to go to dinner, whatever it is, if you see this coming, budget for it. Include it in your budget. Let your budget be whatever your gospel is as possible. And that way, if you plan for as much as you can, the less that surprises you, the better off you'll be. You won't feel like you need to adapt. You won't need to sacrifice, milk for the kids so that you can, get them a gift. Budget for it in advance. Plan, save a little bit extra so that you're prepared when that comes. And we're talking all year long. You can see these holidays coming months in advance. Plan for them. And number 10, and lastly, set meaningful goals for yourself. There's a concept of gamification, or setting goals and giving yourself little rewards and making a game out of difficult things. Well, you can gamify your budget. Your goal may be to pay down this credit card in 5 months. And as you make progress towards that goal, acknowledge it. You're halfway there. After 2 months, okay, we're ahead of schedule. So can we put it off in 4? Can we get it done in 4 months instead of 5? If not, that's fine. But the goal is 5. Make it a smart goal, but make it actionable, make it realistic, make it time sensitive so that you can say by this period of time I will accomplish this goal. Make it measurable. So if you can't very clearly check a box and say, yes, I did this goal, then it's not a good goal. Set real, specific, time-oriented goals for yourself and then drive towards them. And when you get there, maybe you could plan and budget out a little reward for yourself, like $50 to go have dinner with a friend, or $100 to buy those shoes that you really wanted, or whatever it is. If you see something that you're really interested in, use that as a reward to motivate yourself to stick to the budget that you're developing and that you've set up for yourself. Because the more disciplined you can be, the more successful you will be, and the better off you'll be in the future. Next week, we're going to be talking about ways to save money, ways to look at your budget and figure out where you can pull money out, and maybe even just looking at your lifestyle and ways that you can save a few dollars here, a few dollars there, and do the math about what that adds up to. And hit me up in the comments if you have any questions. If you would like to see something specific, or you want to understand a particular topic or current event, I'd love to help you out. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.